Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see how we can enter details of a user, and just using these details, we are generating a hashed password and store it into the database. And also, with the help of authenticate method, how we can use the registered details and generate a token and storing that token into the database. Okay. So let's continue to the video and see how we are doing this. Okay. So hey everyone, in this video we are looking how we are generating the tokens and storing it into database. So first of all, we have to generate the project. Okay. So everyone knows how we are generating the project in Spring Boot. So let's select the Gradle Kotlin we are using, and Java language of course, and the version 3.0.3, the latest version, not these snapshots version, because these are not completed versions. Okay, so we have to selected the complete version, and this is 3.0.3. And group name, we have to give any group name, like we have set tokens. Okay, just token, or we can give a name, token in database. Okay, just a name, and latest version Java 17, of course we are selected that, and add some dependencies. The Spring Boot dev tools we have, and Spring Web, as we are making the web application we use this, but for now we are okay with that. And of course we need a Spring security, because for generating token, so Spring security, and we have to store in this database, so MySQL driver also. And one more thing, JPA, Spring Data JPA, to persist data in SQL stores with JPA. Okay, or you can say that it will automatically generate the SQL queries for us. Okay, so we are using the JPA. It uses Hibernate, and these five dependencies we are using right now. Okay, later on we will add some more dependencies, as we see in the previous videos where we also generates the token, but here we are generating token and store the token in the database. Okay, so let's generate the project. Okay, so just click on generate. So now we have seen, we have opened our project. uh, we have unzip zip file and open it in VS Code. Okay, so let's see our build.gradle.kts file. We have added the five dependencies here, and these all are here. Okay, Spring Data JPA, Spring Boot Starter Security, Spring Web or DevTools, and MySQL connector. Okay, these two are the testing dependencies. They are automatically added, as you know, I have told you before. Okay, so these are the five dependencies. So let's see now what we have to do in this project. So basically, first of all, let's go into the main folder. This one is our main entry point of the Spring Boot project. Okay, as you all know. So first of all, I will show you the basic structure, how we are going to structure this project. Okay, so first of all, I will create some packages here. Okay, so in these packages, I will create some files according to the package names. Okay, so this way we are setting our project. Okay, so first of all, I will setting up my project. Let's see. So let's create some packages. Okay, so first of all, uh, I'm creating a new package with the name like auth, because this is one for authentication. Okay, and and so now we have created another uh, package name as a configuration, so we can name it as a config file. Okay, because here we added our configuration. And now one more package. Okay, so this one for repository. Okay, for database. And one more file or one more package for utility class. Okay, and at last we have our entity or model class. Okay, so we can give it as a name as a entity. Okay, and that's it. So these are the packages we have. Okay, so these five are the packages that we have created, and now we are creating the files inside this. Okay, so now inside these packages, I have created the files. Okay, so let's create these files first. Okay, so inside this we have created one class, so it should be a capital. Okay, auth. So basically it is a controller class. Okay, this inside this folder. And one more file we have created, uh, auth service class. Okay, so this is basically a format we are creating. It's not necessary that you are creating the things in this format. You can create any format you like. Okay, but I'm creating in this way. Okay, okay, now so the auth file is completed, auth package. Now in the config file we have to create a configuration file. So in this we have to create what? JWT authentication entry point. Okay, you know what the entry point is. In the previous video I have told you, so that I have to create here. Okay, JWT authentication entry point. Or another class we have created, JWT authentication filter. Okay, that file also we have created in the previous video. Okay, or one more file we have created in the configuration file is the security configuration. Okay, security config, where we are using the filter chain or many things. Okay, so this is also a file security configuration. Okay, so these things are completed. Okay, now, and let's go to now repository. And now we are going to create a repository. So name it as user repository. Okay, this is basically for the database. So just create this one. Okay, so after the repository we have the utility class. Okay, so in this utility class we have to create a JWT utility. Okay, dot java. Okay, so this is the utility class, and at the last we have our entity folder where we have to create our entity. So our entity should be user. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this is a file structure of our packages or of our program. You can see in authentication I have created the two files. In configuration I have created the three files. In entity there is a one file, there is one file in the repository, and one file in the utility package. Okay, so now, so let's start. uh, so before starting, we have just see the thing that we have added three more dependencies here. So you will add these three dependencies in your project also. Okay, so I have just created a change here, that I have created a utility class. So instead of that I have made a service class, because it shows a quite a responsive or a quite meaningful name. Okay, so Instead of the utility class, I have created just a service package or a JWT service class. Okay, so that change I have made here. Okay, so now instead of writing code one step by step, I've already written a code here. Okay, inside all these folder. Okay, I will not write step by step this code because this video will gonna too long. So I will just show you just written code, and you have to just understand the code. Okay, so first of all, uh, we are seeing that okay, the our entity class. Okay, so this is our entity class, and you know what the entity class means. So the entity class basically is a entity which we are stored in our database. Okay, so here of course the entity class is denoted by the entity annotation, and here we have taken the seven fields in the entity class. First of all, the ID, the first name, last name, email, password, and the access token. Okay, or we can just simply say a token. Okay, so this is how we create entity, or these are the getters setters. Okay, we have to simply generate all the getter setters and the constructor of that entity class. So now after that entity class, let's see the repository. Okay, yeah, first of all we will see repository. This is a simple repository class. Okay, as you know, repository always extends JPA repository or MySQL repository. Okay, so here we anything you can write MySQL repository or JPA repository. So in JPA repository we are passing the two values. First of all, the entity class name and the type of the ID. Okay, so our ID is integer type, so I will pass here an integer. Okay, okay, so this is simply a repository class does. Okay, and it will automatically store our entity in the database. Okay, now after the repository class we will see the service class. Okay, and in the previous video you'll see what is the service class. So you all know in the previous video what is the JWT service class and what it does. Okay, or you can just directly get it from the internet because these things are always be the same. Okay, just extracting the username, getting the expiration of the token, or generating the token, validating the token, all these things are same. Okay, so you can get these things from the internet. Okay, so you will understand this what the JWT service class does. Okay, now after the JWT service we are here in the okay configuration class, where you can see JWT authentication filter. Okay, so it is an important aspect of the Spring Boot also, the JWT authentication filter. Okay, so what does this JWT authentication filter does? Okay, so it will does that it's basically do a filter chain or doing these basic things like uh, chaining methods. Here are basically are different chaining methods. Okay, so filter chain dot do filter chain. Okay, so this is the JWT authentication filter, which means it a kind of a chain, and it will invoking the next and next and next filters again and again. Okay, so this is the JWT authentication filter. It extends once per request filter method. Okay, so you can read about this when we are hovering over this method. You can read about that what this method does. This method is basically a filter based class that aims to guarantee a single execution per request. Okay, so it will just doing a single execution per request. Okay, that's it. That's the work of the JWT authentication filter class. Okay, After that, we have a JWT authentication entry point, and again, this class implements authentication entry point. Okay, so authentication entry point is used by exception translation filter to commence an authentication scheme. Means when we are doing an authentication, it will check first of all in this class where we implement the authentication entry point. Means this is the entry point of our authentication. When we started the authentication, we will go through this method. Okay, and this method is automatically generated. When you write this method, it will ask you to write this method. Okay, this comments method. So this method is basically for the authentication we are using. Okay, and at last we have a security configuration file. We have seen this file in our previous video also, where we are configuring our securities like authentication provider or indicate a class. This authentication provider means indicate a class can process a specific, or we can say authentication manager or security filter chain. We can see these types of filtering we are doing in our project or in our functions, or the password encoder we are using. Okay, so this is security configuration file, and after that, at last, we have authentication. We have authentication controller or authentication service classes. Okay, so in authentication service class, we have a register method. We have authenticate method. We have just two methods. Okay, in register method, we are registering our user, or in authenticate method, we are authenticating that the user is valid or not. Okay, so this is how we register a user, just by setting a first name, last name, email, or password. Okay, and then just save it into the repository. Okay, and in the authenticate function, we are authenticating that the user is authenticate or not. Okay, so this is how we are authenticating it. Okay, and now the authentication controller is like this one. Okay, so this is a dummy I have created. Okay, just comment it out. Okay, so we have these two methods, these two controllers, register or authenticate. Okay, so this is our main project, our overview of the project I will show you. Okay, so now if we run the project. Okay, but for running we have to go to the main class, you know, JWT application. So we have to run the main class. Okay, so now you can see it running on Tomcat 8080 port. Okay, so to see, we have open a postman. Okay, just go there. Okay, yeah, so I've tested it before, and if I change a name like a Sam. Okay, and so anything, we can give our first name, last name, email, and a password. Okay, or yeah, so I'm giving these things. Okay, for the register request. Okay, we are giving the post method. Okay, and if I hit the send button, you can see it will generate uh, things for me like that. Sam, and password you can see here is encrypted form. Okay, so if I see these things in the database, so go to my SQL and just refresh it. So now you can see uh, I have getting these things like Sam, or you can see the password is auto generated here. Okay, or we are storing our password in the hashed function in a database. Okay, so this is how we are doing these things. Okay, so now if we have to see the generating a token. Okay, so we have to go to the authenticate function. Okay, so let's write the authenticate function. Of course it is a post function, or we just need here two things. Okay, in the authentication function we need a email or password. Okay, so in my, yeah, so here if I have entered the data I have just entered, so I can see I have getting a token here. Okay, so this is the token I'm getting. Okay, with the name or things I have entered, just you can see here a name. Or now we can see in our access token column I'm also getting a token which I have generated just now by calling this function. Okay, so this is what we are doing, uh, generating a token and storing it into a database, or also storing a hashed password in our database. Okay, so thank you for this video and see you in the next video. So thank you.